And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Alexander Agunas, No Direction's Everyman Gamer, and I'm joined, as always, by one of the two most intrepid Starfinders this side of the galaxy.
That's me. I'm Vanessa Hoskins.
Unfortunately, James is feeling a little ill tonight, so he won't be joining us, but instead, we have a monumental guest with a monumental topic. Please welcome Starfinder Senior Developer John Compton.
I'll do my Kermit impression.
Well, there we go. All right. So we're here today because Starfinder, at some point between now and the eventual heat death of the universe, is getting a new class, right?
Yes, indeed. Your timeline is broadly accurate.
But you know what?
Or we're in serious trouble.
Fair. We actually had you on a few months ago now when the playtest first came out for this new class. I'm talking, of course, about the Evolutionist. And now there's been a lot of time for you to sit back, look at all that tasty feedback, all of those submissions from different fans all across the world. And now we're here today for a retrospective. And we're very excited to hear all about the Evolutionist, John.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, let's talk about what the Evolutionist is. So the Evolutionist is basically a class that it's almost like a design your own class in a way, because as you gain levels in it, you are adapting your character. You are transforming into something. Maybe you're becoming some sort of outsider in the process, or you're becoming some sort of strange beast thing, or you're gaining you're becoming like a tech lich, or trying to think of some other stuff. Or like a cyborg. Like there are different paths that you can kind of be going down, but the nature of what it is that you're able to do is something that has a whole bunch of a la carte menus that allow you to pick and choose stuff to shape that transformative experience. So you have that long-term transformation, but you also have shorter-term adaptations that you can do. So whenever you're in combat or a similar sort of situation, you're gradually gaining these mutation points that kind of build up, almost like a Solarian gains their attunement. And you can spend those to kind of turn on different adaptations that you've learned how to do to transform in the moment. So you're not just transforming long-term, you are adapting to circumstances mid-combat as you see fit. It's really fun, and it creates that personalized narrative arc, because you start as whatever you are and you will become something entirely new.
So chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is so the way you're describing it sounds to me almost like a cyborg from the DC universe, where he's like mostly machines, but those machines are changing all the time. And so it's like, oh, I need to adapt to this thing. Well, now my machines change and now my body's slightly different. So kind of like that.
Absolutely. So cyborg from DC universe, like there's even a hint, if we go down the cyborg route, of like a bit of Inspector Gadget going on, where it's oh no, I need to be able to do this thing. And I guess your cyborg is able to, I don't know, sprout wings, or is able to change what damage they resist, or things like that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Very awesome. I like it. I remember being really excited about it for my just classic beat 'em up halfling Yava, who is very augment intensive. So thinking that would be a really cool way to go with the constantly changing augments all over her body.
Yeah. And like the other parallel I draw is that it's not just about kind of cyborg being able to change up what he does, but it's also, as you are gaining levels in this, you are becoming more of a cyborg. So you might have started off 90% human, and and by the end maybe you feel more like you are in fact 20% human, or whatever it is, as you're gaining augmentations and other abilities.
Very cool.
Now, before we get too far into this, I want to remind everybody who's watching us live on Twitch that we're absolutely taking your questions. So if you have questions for John, or I guess V and I for some reason, but I imagine if you're here, you want to talk to John, make sure you leave them in the chat and we'll ask them. The one thing that has already popped up is that there are several fans that have noticed that you have used a change in terminology compared to the playtest. Someone pointed out that you called the evolution point mechanic mutation points.
Yeah, and that was one of the points of confusion that made this class a little bit harder to use. We'd originally called them evolution points. has the abbreviation EP, which is the same as entropy points for a Vanguard. And so there was confusion as to whether, like, if I multi-class what do, or, you know, or even just usability ideas like which EP do I have, sort of thing. So
yeah,
so
it says when you have EP, what EP is it talking about? Is it either? Yeah, I can see how that being confusing. Changing it to mana points is a lot better. I mean, mutation points.
Yeah. You know, different forms of confusion, but at the very least, within our Starfinder system,
right? Okay.
There's not the confusion.
MP, does that mean I'm going to be able to cast spells on my Evolutionist?
The key is that we need to make sure that we didn't call them like hybridization points. It's like, oh no, I'm out of HP.
The GM's like, wait a minute. Very funny. So I mean, I guess this is a pretty good place to just start talking about the Evolutionist. One thing that I'm seeing in chat, one of our users named JRock9430 asks, the Evolutionist sounds very combat focused, which rocks, but is there anything special the Evolutionist can do outside of combat? Anything unique?
Yeah, so this was another bit of feedback that we got from our playtest. So the Evolutionist is originally presented, had a number of adaptations that were going to be useful outside of combat, but that did involve you spending some of your mutation points to activate typically. And when combat ended, you'd kind of lose your remaining MP fairly fast. So it was a mostly combat-oriented system, but you could spend your resolve points in order to kind of temporarily gain some of these NP to activate those abilities for like utility purposes. What we found from feedback is that there were numerous ways in which, like, there wasn't a long enough period that you could be using some of these abilities out of combat, or there wasn't enough access to some of the MP or the like to make those useful in a utility way. One of the things that I found in reviewing the current version of the class, I say current because it is final, but once it's laid out and we have to do copy fitting, there's no doubt going to be some adjustment. There'll be another chance to look at things with fresh eyes for like a fourth pass.
Oh, goodness.
But so there's always room for a little bit more tweaking. But in the current version, we have adapted some of the adaptations that you saw in the playtest to have either a constant benefit that you can then spend mutation points to briefly augment, or we've turned a couple of these things into a slightly longer period of time that they apply, so that you're not just resisting something for a couple of rounds, for example. The main one that stands out to me are a bunch of the sensory abilities. So like gaining dark vision might be a constant sort of thing, but then there's a way you could spend mutation points to make it longer range dark vision or see through other stuff.
Ooh, that's really cool. I like
that sounds really awesome. So you know, the publisher and me can't help but hear you say that you are laying this out, which to me means like this might be closer than we're thinking, like maybe like closer to now than the heat death of the universe.
Right.
Once again, I hope. You're the folks who'd find the path, so I feel you have a better sense of the future and might be holding something back from the rest of us.
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, galactic magic didn't have no direction in it.
Yeah. We already come up with it's already such a struggle to be like, okay, people are going to ask, like, what direction are we on a space station? And on one hand, it's real dumb to say, this is north on a space station, because there should be no magnetic north. But on the other hand, they got to point to something. So I feel there's a little bit of that going on.
Okay. Well, there's still port and starboard, right? Aft and stern.
Yeah, where it's like, putting no direction as a spell into Starfinder is just one of those things that's going to really just upset and confuse everybody. Where it's like half of the time you cast it, the gods just come back and say no. I can just imagine. Stop.
Gosh, what's the name of the god who's all about secrets in Starfinder? It begins with a W, right?
You might be thinking Waydon, but that's more about exploration. But also Waydon would be the first person to be like, I don't know what to tell you, but like I got no information for you. Ebro would be the one who's the mystery sort, who's generally like,
I think Wei Den is the
No
appropriate one.
response.
Wei Den comes down and is like, all right, so if you're on a planet, it's the planet's magnetic north. If you're within a solar system, a star system, its north is always towards the star if you're not on a planet. And then if you're in the void of space, every direction is north and you get stunned. There you go.
And like if you worship the Devourer, it's like saying Hoster 3 times in a row. It's just like eventually you attract trouble and something will eat your planet. And you're like, shouldn't have trolled the GM like that.
Yeah, Dustin shouldn't have trolled the GM like that.
Find new ways to troll the GM, Dustin.
No, not me. Why? All right. So actually it's very interesting. Aaron is here from Paizo's marketing, and he is apparently taking notes because he wants to know everything about this class for when the marketing of this project that is closer than the heat death of the universe is coming out. So let's talk more about it. What else? What other good tidbits can you give us about feedback you guys heard and received?
Yeah, so one of the things that was a little tricky about the playtest version of the class is that it had a lot of things to juggle. Like the more MP that you acquire, the more like little bonuses turn on. So it's like, oh, I'm transforming into more of a mechanical being. I get a little bit of an AC boost, or my natural weapons that the class gives you called Adaptive Strike, which got very positive feedback. Might get a little bit stronger or gain a critical hit effect. So as you gain MP that you have not yet spent, you're gaining little passive power-ups, and then you can spend it to do cool stuff. But there's a little bit of back and forth like that. And one of the ones that added some unnecessary complication was one of the adaptation powers that you got at first level, which was spend an MP, treat your 3/4 base attack bonus as if it were 1+1 per level base attack bonus. And that was just sort of a thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to have to like have 2 different attack bonus numbers, and it's just one more thing to keep in my head. So like Evolutionist is just straight up +1 BAB per level.
Yes.
And it's just like go maul things. It's fine.
Yes, good.
So it's another one of those things. Just remove one of the levers that you have to be thinking about in order for you to be able to focus more on the adaptations that have a visual cool thing going on.
I don't know how much feedback you get being in the office during a pandemic, but chat is currently flooding with smiles and exclamations.
Everyone's very excited about full.
They're very excited about full base attack bonus.
Full awesome Evolutionist combatant. Let's do it.
So one question from JRock9430 talking about Star Trek: can the Evolutionist be compared to Otto from Deep Space Nine? Specifically, can they shapeshift a la disguising?
Yeah, so let's see. I believe I remember a couple of disguise abilities in here. There's a little bit of blending in my head of this and Nanosite, which because the Nanosite definitely has one of its class progressions. The Discorporation one allows you to turn into goop and and the like. So that is certainly one path to being Odo, but I'm pretty sure that there's a bit of like reshape yourself stuff going on here. So
because I know that there's a lot of augmentations that allow you to take on various forms as long as they're similar to yourself in different ways. And so I can imagine that there are ways to sort of get around that. Even if you're doing the augmentation one, you can say, well, now I have the augment that changes my face. Well, now I have the augment that changes this. But turning into like, I don't know, a duffel bag that they put the stolen goods in and hand over to the bad guys to track back down to their base, like that might not happen. Odo's kind of OP.
Yeah, one of the one of the things about the Evolutionists is that I provided a lot more adaptations to Joe, who did the follow-up design work or development on it. So we do have some things sitting in the back pocket to be adding into future publications real soon. One of the things that kind of jumps out to me just flipping through these adaptations that is kind of closer to the turn into puddle thing was added late in the development. It's called Invert Form, which allows you to spend mutation points to basically briefly jello your body and change your orientation. So it's like, as a reaction, when an effect would knock you prone or something like that, you basically go, oh, I'm on my back. In fact, my back is now my feet, and like my feet are now my head. So I guess I'm standing up again.
I had a completely different
Amazing.
visual when you first described it as turning yourself inside out, and I did not like it.
I'm remembering the inverted giants from Pathfinder First Edition.
Yes,
where
that is
just
what
like,
I imagined.
I have no skin, and like, why do you make us fight these? Look, it has a picture. No.
We're getting some love from the original draft for explosive strike and other abilities that did like crazy area attacks. There's a general question on whether or not there's any more cool strike enhancing adaptations, like if that's something that's going to be moving forward.
So the first bit of the answer is this is definitely design space that we have for future publications, but you will find several different augmented form. What is the thing called? Adaptive strike. There we go. Adaptive strike mechanic alterations. So the one that is being referenced here is the area strike one, which allows you to spend some mutation points in order to turn your adaptive strike into some sort of area attack. So like, do you normally spit little bolts of fire? Cool. Breathe a cone of fire, or, you know, breathe a fireball over there. Do you normally have like nails that you use to swipe people? Cool. Just make them really long, like Lust from Full Metal Alchemist, and stab an entire cone of people. You know, that sort of idea. So it's a way of turning the base mechanic of adaptive strike into something a little bit more flashy that makes people go, whoa, or ugh.
So what I'm hearing,
like, they're like distance ones where it can expand your reach or expand the range as well.
So what I'm hearing is that if I want to play a Chimera from Full Metal Alchemist, I should play an Evolutionist.
You could absolutely do that. Yeah.
Does the Evolutionist have any options that let me play Pride?
I mean, Pride isn't so much a class mechanic as it is a philosophy.
That's cheap.
I leave it to your audience as to whether you have a long way to go to achieve that, or whether you have already realized that Zen potential.
Kitsune Warlock, our own Dustin Knight, in chat says Pride was a homunculus, not a chimera. Adjust nerd glasses.
Damn.
Oh no, I got outweaved.
Yeah, if you want to play the homunculus Pride, then okay, sure, you can totally do that with an Evolutions. If you want to play a Chimera, all you need to do is play like a very creatively presented Vlaka that only makes a couple of words and makes everybody at the table cry.
Oh no! Somehow that's worse than implying the previous one. Oh my gosh.
Father.
Oh no, don't stop it. That's terrible.
Don't worry. If you pet the dog, you get resolve points back.
Stop.
Oh no. Oh, oh my gosh. Oh no. All right. Okay. So before we make anybody else cry, Rostman in chat asks, was the initial outline of the class abilities based around the assumption that players would invest in discounted augmentations, like no flying powers because you would have biotech wings, etc.?
I mean, in the case of that particular example, you do have flight powers that you can acquire through one of your mutation points adaptations, but there is the idea behind the scenes where it's like, we have a couple hundred augmentation options now, and there's a certain degree to which we want to make sure that the class can just be one where even if you're not buying a bunch of augmentations, you can still be getting some of those core flavors, but with the idea that there's a lot of the versatility that you're going to get just by shopping for augmentations and adding those onto what the class is already giving you. To that end, the playtest had 3 different options that you gained around 7th level that were called niches, I believe, and now they're called, we changed up the name a little bit. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's now called their focus, the thing you gain is something. Niches, the like, what direction are you going? Are you going like cybernetic? Are you going necrocraft, etc.? The focus is later on. So this is augmented combat or packmaster. And so the augmented one boosts how you use augmentations. The combat one
Very
makes
cool.
gives you some of the like classic combat abilities that you see on soldiers or Solarians. So like the
Okay.
more attacks when you full action, full attack, stuff like that. And the Packmaster one is one that lets you kind of bleed out some of your adaptations that you activate onto nearby companions. So if you want to, like, Pathfinder First Edition had the old barbarian rage power of Inspire Rage, where you get so angry that you make your friends angry too, and that's kind of the same
gets
idea
powers.
for this.
Yeah.
But the augmented focus originally allowed you to get an augmentation at your level for free that would upgrade to something else of your level every time you gained a level in the class. Now we've actually become a little bit more generous with that power. So now the class at a first level, second level, gains that same power. Just all evolutionists do. You gain that little first level adaptation or augmentation, sorry, that you can swap in and out as you gain levels. And if you go the augmented focus, you gain another one at a slightly lower level, and you gain more capacity to install even more of them into yourself. So you might have seen some powers for some of our like playable species that allow you to like plug 2 augmentations of the same type into one system, stuff like that, where it's just like load me up sort of idea. So augmentations from the very beginning have been an assumption of this class. We've just made it so that it takes it even a step further to make sure that augmentations are as accessible and approachable as possible for somebody going this path.
And even if you're playing something that you don't like, a big clunky metal technology in your body, there's always BioWare too. You can be like, well, then it's the BioWare version that gives me a funny tail and whatever.
Yeah, and the free augmentation that you're getting is going to be associated with one of the types of augmentation that your niche does. So if you go the cybernetic route, the free augmentation is a cybernetic augmentation.
Got it. Okay.
But that doesn't stop you from buying a whole bunch of
BioWare,
biotech as well.
I was just thinking about the person playing the Evolutionist that wanted to be like, no, it's my cells evolving. It's not just a bunch of tech, and like trying to figure out a way to use the class mechanics so it doesn't sort of ruin that fantasy of like my biology is adapting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So even if you go the necrographed route, you can just be manifesting necrographs and it's like, I am slowly dying, but becoming more powerful, but slowly dying.
That's cool.
That's all right.
One day I woke up and I had no tongue. Fine.
Whoa. That's okay.
That gives me an idea for a character that's like, we were talking a little before we started rolling on the show of like what to do if a character dies, but you still want to play the character, of the idea of like, I was dying and then we did a thing and I'm not quite dead yet, but my body's holding on, but I've like developed all these necrographs that are just like kind of keeping me alive and keep changing and like keep fixing whatever is wrong today. It's like,
fixing
because
you're still dying.
You're still dying, but you're just like staving off death for a little bit so you can finish whatever big task. Stronger.
Rhino X Rex, which is a really hard name to say, I had to mentally practice it like 3 times, wants to know whether any of the drawbacks of the class have been adjusted or changed. They are specifically referring to the drawbacks of the niches, but I think there were other ones too, right? Like when you started to change and you gathered points, you warped, right?
Yeah, there's been a little bit of tinkering with some of those. So each of the niches gives you not only a unique adaptation ability that you can activate, but it also gives you a special benefit when you start gaining those mutation points. That's kind of based on the number of mutation points you have, but also a drawback that kind of kicks in as your mutation points grow higher. So like, for the necrograph version, I sure can start to like drain life from people and do more damage in general because I hate the living apparently. But also like healing starts to affect you a little bit less because you have clearly rejected life in some way. Or if you gain more mutation points, then you start to like kind of become obsessed with the death around you. So if you knock out somebody, then there's a will save you have to make to not just start tearing their body apart for your next action. So it's like these are basically the like, it's almost like thinking about the Incredible Hulk, where you're gaining all this power, but there's also a little bit of self-control you're losing. So one of the ones that got some pushback was the Eldritch path, which had which basically like gave you spell resistance as you started to gain mutation points, but also made it so you started to take more damage from things that were non-magical, because basically you're starting to exist on this more magical side of reality, and anything that is anathema to that is anathema to you. So one of the things that we did to kind of scale that back a little bit, because like energy damage lives in a really weird place when it comes to magic, not magic.
It's not magic, it's a flamethrower. Well, this time it was magic. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we can flamethrower a ghost for half damage, but what does it mean? So in this case, it is non-magical kinetic damage. So it has tightened it, it has clarified it, things like that. On top of that, for Eldritch, for example, in addition to the spell resistance that you're gaining, you have a reaction that you gain so long as you have one mutation point or more, that you can just burn whenever you're hit by a spell or would need to make a save against a spell. You just give yourself a resistance bonus to that spell in addition to everything else you have going on. So it's just like magic happens on your terms when you are an Eldritch evolutionist. So yeah, we have revisited some of those guys just to reconfigure what it is that they're doing. Some of them are going to look very familiar though.
I love the idea that it's easier for me to kill this magic guy with my bare hands because my hands are anathema to him. Like, oh yeah, if I punch him, come on, let's go. You be in the ring, Magic Mike.
Yeah, they're just like, no weapon can harm me, and you just throw a Nalgene at them. They're like, ow, what? Why? That's not fair.
I am beyond your pathetic mortal. Oh God, it's improvised popcorn. No,
this baseball bat can knock nuclear weapons back at their silos.
I mean, that's basically what happened in Stranger Things, right? The fighter took the baseball bat and just started beating the Eldritch evolutionist with the baseball bat, right? It works. It's legit.
These are creative solutions.
Uh-huh. Speaking of creative solutions, Dustin Knight has more creative solutions for you, such as printing your gun. No, you do. Printing your gun with the Fabricate spell, so that way it's technically magic. Casting magic weapon on your opponent's gun so that you're resistant to it.
You see, the problem is that he's forgotten that magic weapon doesn't exist in Starfinder.
Oh no!
Yeah, one of the things though that is important is that like there are some creatures that have like damage reduction unless it's against magical stuff, or like are my weapons magical so I can punch a specter? And that's one of those things that for a natural weapon using character, it can become pretty hard to achieve. And for a class that is built primarily around the notion that you're using the adaptive strikes, that needed to be something that we were solving. So there was something in the playtest that allowed you to do this, where it's basically like a little token, talisman, memento, something that you wear or carry that is called your. See, everything got renamed. So I have to keep on.
But that is a big problem. You mentioned playing like natural weapon characters, and I love natural weapon characters. I think they're really fun, and it is sometimes very difficult to be like, well, how do I make these things magic? Usually, I'm punching robots or weird alien creatures. I usually don't have to worry about like ghosts.
my favorite thing about Starfinder is how, like, you know, way back at Gen Con in 2016, you know, the team got up on stage and was like, this is Starfinder, you know, it's in the future. We expect this to be a game where you use guns and technology to beat your enemies and defeat your foes. And like everyone was like, I could, but here's this Dashko that I found. and like, okay, like I'll never forget that. Like, I had a conversation with Owen. He was like, yeah, you know, like, we're gonna have melee weapons, like they exist, but we don't think people are really gonna like want to use them. They're just gonna want to shoot people from really far away. And I'm like
when half of the things that you fight are like monstrous aliens on a weird planet that just want to eat you, they're going to run up to you and start beating the junk out of you. You need a way to defend yourself, and just going pew pew with a little tiny pea shooter ain't gonna handle it. You gotta get in there and just get them.
Yeah, you need you got just like Lauren, you said, you got to get them with the Dashko. Use the Dashko.
So speaking of which, Milo version 3 has a really good question. Is there any ability that can benefit races that already have a natural weapon?
Off the top of my
your
head, I'm not
sure. Maybe
not remembering it, but
you'll have to wait for full release to find
your evolutionist adaptive strike damage generally outpaces that of a natural weapons species that has improved unarmed strike.
Ooh.
So it's roughly comparable to
Sure.
a Solarian's like solar weapon. Or
Hmm.
if you go with the energy sorts of options for your adaptive strikes, it is roughly comparable to a solar flare ability for the Solarian. Got to have all sorts of fun with it in Excel with doing those comparisons.
Mm.
But the fulcrum ability, which is what I was getting at, that talisman thing, is something that not only allows you to attach weapon fusions to it, but then allows you, by consequence, to have your abilities act as magical weapons. One of the things that has kind of been an odd consequence of how like the Solarian works is that they have a completely unique to their class item that, like, if it
Yeah.
shows up, you're like, well, we don't have a Solarian, so I guess this doesn't matter to us. Or I guess one of these showed up, so I guess the Solarian gets it, you know, that sort of thing. We wanted to make sure that the Evolutionist was playing with as much of the existing content as possible. So providing a way for them to use weapon fusions and weapon seals was really important.
Mhm. Definitely.
Very cool.
And you just don't want to go forever slapping like, you know, new types of equipment because this class doesn't use a weapon. Like, I think that's a good call. Definitely a good call. It looks like people want to know more about fulcrums. They want to know all the secrets.
Yeah, so the fulcrum is basically you get to choose what it looks like, and are you wearing it? Are you holding it? Like it doesn't change how it works.
Can my fulcrum be a stuffed teddy bear named Mr. Bun Buns?
It could absolutely be a teddy bear called Mr. Bun Buns, even if it looks like a bear, and you whisper horrid nothings to it about how you're going to kill all the rest of your party. But I don't know where you would have gotten that idea from.
I have no idea.
Show talk. So yeah, you can install weapon fusions and fusion seals into the fulcrum as if it were a weapon of an item level equal to your evolutionist level. So basically, yeah, not going to have any big surprises there. And the usual sorts of rules apply when it comes to does the fusion that I installed work on my augmented strike? Is the quality of your augmented strike one that would normally benefit from that fusion? So like I put the disruptive fusion on my fulcrum. Cool, I can apply that to my bludgeoning attacks as usual, but no, you cannot have a disruptive acid attack. It was already disruptive enough.
It's already disruptive enough. I love it. All right. So what's some other cool things that have changed about the Evolutionist going from the playtest to now?
Let's see. So we already talked about some of the adaptations getting a permanent benefit. We talked about the base stack bonus change, some of the stuff being renamed, and the augmentations that you're getting for freebies. Yeah, so I mean, those are a lot of the big changes that you're going to see. We've otherwise done a lot of cleaning up. We'll see how many abilities that we can fit into the final version of the book. I mean, I mentioned that, you know, copy fitting is going to be happening, and layout's happening. Copy fitting is going to be happening fairly soon. So you can expect this book to be coming out in the near-ish future before the heat death of the universe.
Good clarification.
I figured you were going to ask. But yes. Yeah, that covers a lot of things. So the main feedback stuff that we were getting was, like, again, a lot of stuff to be juggling in the class. So we have done some simplification of things. We've removed a couple of things that you need to juggle. And we got a lot of positive feedback about that adaptive strike, which for your audience is the natural weapon sort of thing that you get to design yourself. Because you get, I think, 2 of them at first level, and you gradually get to, every time you gain a level, you can kind of change up what it is that you have, and you gradually add in other varieties that you can have in your golf bag of natural weapon.
Right.
That is so cool. So you're telling me I can make multiple adaptive strikes, like you know, let's say I could have like one that's like acid, and then I could have one that's just like my fist is a hammer and I smack you with it.
Yeah, so you get to choose between, I think it's 7 different damage types, the 3 classic kinetic damage types, as well as acid, fire, cold, and electricity. You can choose whether they're melee or ranged. You don't have to have both be kinetic. So you could have, like, I spit fire and I also develop an ankylosaurus tail. And
Amazing.
you gradually gain the ability, if I recall, to, manifest a couple of them at once. But early on, it's like I can only be doing one at a time. As you gain, it's basically manifest them at the same speed as drawing a weapon. And if you have some abilities that make you draw weapons faster, hey, you get to manifest these things faster.
That's cool.
It allows that kind of fluid action that, like, for the evolutionists, like one of the characters I tend to think of is somebody like Beast Boy, where thing happens to Beast Boy and terrible consequence would occur, but he transforms as a reaction, and now it's no longer a thing. Like, got swallowed, or is about to get swallowed, turns into hippo, can no longer be swallowed because hippo. Style of thing is very much in nature that I wanted to be capturing with evolution. So you get to see a lot of reaction powers.
That's very cool. We have a couple of fans that are asking whether the structure of the niche changes. Is it still 3 abilities? Are there more? Are there fewer?
It's still 3 abilities. So you're gaining your kind of initial stuff at first level. So that benefit, that drawback, and that special adaptation. You still gain the unique adaptation at 10th level. And then you gain kind of that capstone suite of immunities that are partially a la carte and partially associated with the niche that you chose to represent what it is you've turned into. So it's like, I've turned into a construct. Cool. You can be immune to like fatigue and some disease stuff, and also grab like 1 or 2 other things that are tied to the nature of your construct nature. But one of the core reasons behind that, having just those 3 tiers of advancement, is because consider something like a Mystic Connection. Mystic Connection has, I think it's like 5 different tiers of stuff, along with a whole custom spell list.
Yeah.
That takes up a lot of space in a book. And what we have found is that when it comes to adding new connections for a Mystic, we can fit in like 1 per page, maybe. So like once we're adding more Mystic options, we actually can't add much content for them because each one takes up so much. So we want to make it so that each one of these could take about maybe a column or so. So that way it would be a lot easier to be introducing more of these sorts of things in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. It's very reminiscent of Pathfinder 2nd edition too, which like a lot of the bloodlines and stuff also hit that sweet spot of like 3 abilities. So it's definitely seems like it's a kind of like an overall trend in the Piezo Dome. I don't know if that's the right term for the I know it's a star chamber, but is it the Piezo Dome?
Yeah, and one of the other things that goes along with it means that once you choose that niche, you only have a couple of abilities that are locked into your character progression. And it means that there are more opportunities for you to choose things as you gain levels, as opposed to based on what you chose at first level. And that's kind of a design space that is a personal bugbear of mine, is when all of my character choices are determined like levels 1 through 5. And then from there, I'm just kind of riding the ride. I have something to look forward to, but not to choose. So 3 abilities hits all those sweet spots for me.
Definitely. Let's see. I'm looking at chat. We got a couple more comments. There's a lot of people that are happy that there are multiple adaptive strikes. I don't know if that was in the playtest. Was that?
I'm pretty sure it was. I think you started with 2 of them, and like you could go up to about 4 of them known by the end.
And earlier you said 7, so I'm holding you to it.
Let's see.
No, I said there are 7 damage types.
All right. Okay. I knew the number was in there somewhere.
I think that you should use that logic where it's like, I'm pretty sure I heard the number 7, so I get 7 of these things. You heard it on No Direction.
Play back the tape.
Yeah. No, to clarify, for a couple of people in chat, John is saying that you will be able to have like different strikes that you use throughout while leveling up. So you get like 2, and as you level up, you'll get more. The example was that you might spit fire as one of them, and then quickly manifest a tail and smack people around because it's really cool.
I think it'd be super cool. I'm loving this cyborg type idea of a character where it's like, okay, especially with quick draw or something, where you're like, okay, so I'm gonna like punch you, and my fist is a giant hammer, and then you went down. I was full attacking. I will change into like quick draw into my hand into like a big electric ray and like shoot that guy over there.
Absolutely, you should go totally Mega Man on people.
So yes, I want to Mega Man everybody.
You got to. I mean, Vanessa's primary flavor is Punch Girl, so it makes sense.
I guess Mega Man as a verb could possibly be misleading, because like, does it mean you have a hand cannon, or does it mean that you steal the very essence of everybody you defeat in order to use their powers? To which point,
Yes.
there is an ability. Oh boy, transitions. To which there's an ability called Evolution Drain that you gain at, I think it's 5th level, that is a touch ability that you can use every so often, that allows you to basically make contact with somebody, even sometimes as part of one of your melee adaptive strike abilities, to drain some of their evolutionary material. It's like you flavor it how you like. Are you draining their DNA, or is it just like, I steal your secrets from your mind, whatever it is, that allow you to basically make them sickened for a bit, because they're like, what did you do to me, you monster? And gives you a couple of mutation points on the fly, so that you can kind of speed up your advancement.
Ooh, that's so cool.
That is very cool.
I'm going to punch some SROs and get all their coolest gadgets.
Oh, you can just start taking the biotech route to the SRO, where you just kind of Pinocchio it, and you're like, one day I'll be a real boy. You drained that man's blood. Real boy.
They didn't say what kind of boy you were. They didn't say what kind of boy you were.
Just an SRO vampire that creeps out of the table.
It's basically just Devilbot from Futurama, where it's just a robot with a little cape. It grows a cape that just unfurls down its back.
Okay, well, let's now turn to our evolutionist paladin. I crave the warmth of life. Oh, buddy. Cool. Well, how about you do the negotiation, which should be fine, because in addition to having the base array of skills, class skills that you can choose from, like the stuff you expect from somebody who's trained and stuff, it's like you got the physical skills like acrobatics and athletics, yada yada yada. But there's also an ability called flexible skill, kind of like what a Solarian gets at 1st level, where you get to choose 2 class skills. The evolutionist gains a class skill based on their niche, as well as one just kind of, I don't know, choose something. And as you gain levels, I think it's like 9th level and 17th level, somewhere around there, you not only gain another class skill that you acquire, but you gain extra skill points too. So you go from a 4 skill point class to a 5 skill point class to a 6 skill point class. So you basically just, again, your class is evolving over time. So if you want to just pivot and be like, you know what, we're good at diplomacy, I want my undead Pinocchio to be good at talking to people and telling them that you can totally trust us, as you're dragging around bodies, or get your bluff bonus. You saw nothing.
What if I want to just hiss at people and take intimidate? Can I do that?
Yeah, you could absolutely do that too. And on top of that, your flexible skill gives you a gradually scaling insight bonus, kind of like you would see from an operative or from a technomancer. So that, yes, you can also slowly upgrade your intimidation abilities, and so hiss better at people.
Amazing. So what happens if I pick a skill with that I already have skill ranks in? Are they refunded to me, or are they just gone forever?
So when you're picking a skill for that, it just turns into a class skill, and you gain retroactively the skill points that would turn you into that skill advancement. So let's say you hit 9th level, you would gain 5 plus intelligence modifier skills for hitting 9th level, plus 8 skill points retroactively, at least one of which has to be spent on that new class skill that you just acquired. But otherwise you're free to spend willy-nilly using the usual rules.
So what if I pick a skill that's not a class skill, but I already have 8 skill points in it?
Then you would have to spend 1 skill point in it now that you gain 9th level, and be at 9 skill points. But otherwise, again, your skill points are still yours free to spend.
Okay.
This is pretty cool, especially because if you're playing in a party and, like, I don't know, your pilot gets gunned down and you're like, we have to get off world. How do we get out of here? You're like, well, we just hit 9th level. Hold on. Now I know. Now I know how to pilot all of a sudden. That's pretty cool.
That sounds pretty cool.
Sorry. For this SRO vampire, be like, bring him over here. And then you like, touch him on the head and like parts of his skull come off. And you're like, I know how to pilot. I'm like, that is so gross. You couldn't learn this another way. You're literally a robot. Just install a training program. What are you doing?
We could go back to the Kermit flail we all did at the beginning. This could just be Vampire Kermit from that one skit where Kermit like looks at the old guy and just like leaps.
So one, I take heart in how, Vanessa, you are considering characters based on your companions failing. Um, I'm sure this doesn't come up in play or actual plays at all. Um, and second, the idea of like, looking at undead Pinocchio and being like, did you have to drain his blood to learn how to pilot a starship? You're just looking up, and Alex's intimidation ability just like, I'm a real boy. And then you leap into the pilot seat and just hit the ignition. And it's like, you didn't answer my question. You just blast off.
I think we all agree now that we need poppets in Starfinder now, so that we can make this canonical. Because I feel like a poppet, the Pinocchio would be a poppet, right? And then Kermit would be a poppet too. So we need poppets in Starfinder.
So I guess No Direction is going to be running an all Muppet adventure run.
Well, no. All Muppets, one human.
I would also accept that. I like that idea. I was also going to propose, just because it would be a total subversion of the natural order of things, 3 poppets, 1 deeply confused and uncomfortable Skittermander.
Oh, no.
Where it's just like, I don't understand. Everybody seems to be as strange, bubbly, and fuzzy as I am.
Oh, no.
Is this what I sound like to people?
And that's how you get that one Skittermander who's like missing the eyeball and is like the hand, and he's all serious all the time. This is where he comes from. Alternate,
Wow.
if we have it be like one human and the rest are all poppets, we could totally have it be Thurston Hillman played by Thurston Hillman, or we could have Thurston Hillman played by John Compton.
I mean, either of those are acceptable. The first one seems to imply that Thurston Hillman is already a puppet.
Oh no, it would be Thurston Hillman playing a human,
Like
who is
the only
Thurston-
human.
like
A
playing
mixed
himself.
about-
I see. He would be the guest star on the Muppet Show.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's Thurston Hillman as himself, but he's still in the Starfinder universe. So he's just playing himself on the show, on the game.
The other option is that we have Thurston Hillman, the human, played by John Compton, and have the whole game be run by Thurston Hillman, the actual GM, as a stream, because obviously Thirsty has a lot of experience with that. And so you get to spend the entire game with all of the other puppets asking for Thurston Hillman, and you both go against. I'm sorry, I kept it together for so long, and then
see if I'm going to do a not Muppet Show thing with Evolutionists, I feel that there have to be the 2 old men critics, where it's just like, whoa, I drained evolution points from this guy, and now I've gained all these abilities. New abilities drained from that thing? Aren't evolutions supposed to make you better? Whoa!
Oh my god. I feel like this has got to happen now. Like there's got to be at some point before the death of the universe where we make this real.
Wow.
There's at least one timeline where we do it, John.
That's true. It's
I
just-
don't see why you need all those necrographs, because the quality of these jokes is killing me.
Oh
Those
my
jokes
gosh.
were dead already. Oh.
Oh my god, it's so good. And then nothing ever happens in the game because the GM is too busy laughing to actually like progress the plot.
I am reminded about trying to run Serpent's Rise from Pathfinder First Edition at PaizoCon 2016, 2017 for Thurston Hillman, among others. And we sure did get kicked out of the ballroom because the 5-hour slot ended and we had not yet finished the first act.
That's amazing. How late did you guys stay up?
I think so. We started at, what would that have been, like 8 p.m., 7 p.m. And we ended at maybe 3:30 a.m., 4.
Oh my god. And then you had to get up the next day and do like Sunday things?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that might have even been Friday.
Oh no, Saturday things.
Where we had to like show up and be happy at the banquet.
Oh, that's so good.
And it's like, why aren't you excited about all the things that are happening, Mr. Compton? I make bad life choices.
And half of them involve Thurston. So with that out of the way, we have about, we're running down to the end of the show. So is there any
minutes?
is there any like really big things you want to share with us about the Evolutionist that you think that people really ought to know? Also, what will your first evolutionist be? You could tell me the species and the class and the archetype.
Yeah, I mean, when playtesting the Evolutionist, even before we got into the like public playtest, had a couple folks and me build just a pile of Evolutionists of each design, and so sure did build a Kobold. Kobold, an Eldritch Kobold the first time around. So it's sort of a transform into dragon thing, but it's like
Yeah.
dragons are the very nature of magic sort of idea where every time you transform, you just spit fire at people and manifest wings and fly into their faces and just cling onto them like a face hugger. Which is yet another one of those ways in which our like using ranged weapons all the time assumption does not necessarily work. It's like, well, just back up 90 feet and shoot him with a laser pistol. I would love to back up 90 feet and shoot him with a laser pistol.
Show me on this map where there's 90 feet of clearance. Just show me.
Show me in this 30 by 30 foot room.
Yes.
But yes, that's my first Evolutionist that I made. As far as things that are also worth sharing about the Evolutionist is that hey, it's a new class, which means it's going to have a new iconic character. And I think we've shown a little bit of concept art on some of our blogs. Okay, then so the main thing that I can say about this is that it's a character that, hey, it's an evolutionist. They are gradually transforming over the course of their career. And so in the course of creating concept art for this character, we have created concept art of them at different stages in their evolution. And it's the iconic character. I'm pretty sure that we finalized that this is an Eldritch Path character. Is one of those where it's like you're going to see it, and especially if you're familiar with Starfinder or Pathfinder canon, you're going to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I think I see what's going on here. I think I can tell what the story is behind this thing just based on what they are turning into. Because it's one of those where it's like, hey, an Eldritch thing, you could be turned into like, I don't know, a Fae or a dragon or like an arcane ooze or something. So, this is different. This is weird.
So I think I found it. Monday, October 4th, 2021, there was the blog post for the Starfinder Evolutionist playtest wrap-up. And there is, I'm going to put it on the screen, there is a picture of this thing with like a Mega Man style arm cannon and giant claws and just made up an amalgamation of body parts.
Yes, that is indeed that is indeed a later stage, actually mid stage kind of version of this, where it's just like, this is a being who is obviously changed in some big ways because so as you saw with the Nanocyte iconic, who is an Ishtikri, kind of a squid person, with starting with the Nanocyte, we started to do a departure from the core rulebook playable species for iconic characters. Like Starfinder is like it is more than just kind of humanoids. It has some weird aliens also. You can play a silicon slug thing. You can play a weird squid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is a playable species that you might recognize from one of our Alien Archive books that is undergoing their transformation procedure. And you can just get a sense of the various ways that the evolutionist can change your very physiology and being over time.
It's very cool, this picture. It looks like a Pathra, like cat people?
Yeah, it could totally be what's going on.
We'll have to,
like to me.
I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But you did hear it here. This is an Eldritch Path, you said? This is an Eldritch?
That's my recollection. Take me at like 95% certain about my recollection, because it's been a couple months since we last talked about it.
Right.
That is fair. But I mean, thanks so much for coming on, John. You're always so much fun to have on the show, and we love all of the insights that you provide on all the awesome new Starfinder content that's coming out.
Always happy to be here and make up terrible character concepts for us.
Terrible, or are they actually like stream defining? Like is this the most content that's ever been contented on this show?
See, that's another place where you don't want the old men from the Muppets, because they're just going to like break the fourth wall to slam the stream that you're on.
Oh no! All right.
My gosh.
Well, if you are a patron of No Direction, first of all, we thank you. Your contributions to our Patreon are what make shows like this possible and allow us to bring on awesome guests and do all sorts of awesome things. And in addition, if you are one of those wonderful folks, I invite you to show up to our after show. Do we have a fancy name for our after show? Everyone else has a fancy name for their after show.
Oh my gosh.
I'm putting Alex on the spot.
I mean, we're No Direction Beyond, so we should
Beyonder?
Beyonder, yeah.
Beyonder. Gosh, we'll workshop it. Maybe that's what we'll talk about today.
Maybe.
John, if you're in our Discord, you're welcome to pop by and hang out with us, or you could, work, because it looks like you're in the office right now, whatever you need to do.
No Direction alternate realities.
Sure.
You're going to an entirely different place.
A whole other world.
Where it's actually no coordinates. Yeah.
No coordinates. No.
I created a Filk version of a whole new world for the Pathfinder 2 playtest for Gen Con that only got to sing a couple of times, but yes.
Oh my gosh, Milo V3 says we should call it The Gap.
All right, well, we're gonna
no, so I don't remember what we talked about the last time we had one of these after shows. We clear the cache every time.
That's
all
so
right.
good.
Well, we're going to go to the Gap, and if you're a patron, you get to meet us there on our Discord. If you would like to join us, you can do it right now. If you are listening live, you can sign up for our Patreon and link your Patreon account to Discord, and the channels will show up automatically, and you'll see us in there chatting. So come on and join us. And if you're not, why not? You should support the show. You really should. But thank you so much. You can also watch this show live on Wednesday nights on Twitch and catch a bunch of the other awesome stuff we've got going on the network, including No Direction Prime, which is all about Pathfinder, and the new, the new Essence 20 show.
Upshift. There we go. Yeah.
Yes. Updraft. Whee! We're fun. So yeah, we got a bunch of cool stuff. Come check us out. And yeah, I hope to see everyone in the after show.
Yeah. I'm excited. Thanks for joining us, John, and to all of our viewers and listeners. And until next time, go beyond with No Direction.